Good evening. I'm Dr. Anthony Fauci. First, I'd like to thank all the older women in America who have sent me supportive, inspiring, and sometimes graphic emails. Now, there's been a lot of misinformation out there about the virus. And yes, the president has taken some liberties with our guidelines. So tonight, I would like to explain what the president was trying to say.
As the Oscars spotlight shone on Brad Pitt's moment of glory, the actor did not choose to stay silent or make a hollow statement, as many expected. Instead, he used his moment of acceptance to launch a merciless attack on the Republican Party and the Trump impeachment trial. With sharpness and no qualms, Pitt exposed what he saw as hypocrisy, abuse of power, and political farce, turning his speech into a blistering indictment. While the audience was stunned by his audacity, his words quickly became the center of controversy, stirring up Hollywood and the global public.
Really incredible. Thank you to the Academy for this honor of honors. They told me I only have 45 seconds up here, which is 45 seconds more than the Senate gave John Bolton this week.
At the Oscars on February 9, 2020, Brad Pitt accepted the award for Best Supporting Actor for his role as Cliff Booth in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But instead of spending just 45 seconds thanking his colleagues and crew, he turned the moment into a powerful political statement. His speech, especially his criticism of the Republican Party and Donald Trump's impeachment trial, not only attracted attention but also sparked mixed reactions from the public. In just a few words, Pitt aimed at a hot political issue at the time, Trump's first impeachment trial. On February 5, 2020, the Republican-controlled U.S. Senate acquitted Trump of charges of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress related to the Ukraine scandal. One of the biggest points of contention was the decision to refuse to call John Bolton, former National Security Advisor, as a witness, even though he could have provided crucial evidence about Trump's behavior. Pitt opened by mentioning the time limit for his speech, 45 seconds, and then cleverly compared it to the Senate not giving Bolton any chance to speak. The irony was that he implicitly accused Republicans of stifling the truth, turning a serious process into a farce. The phrase 45 seconds more than was not only a clever analogy but also an accusation that even entertainment theater was fairer than the U.S. political system at that time. Pitt then upped the ante by suggesting that Quentin Tarantino, the director of his award-winning film, might make a movie about the incident. He ended with the line, "In the end, the adults do the right thing," an idealistic but deeply troubling statement. In Tarantino's films, justice is often served in satisfying fictional ways, as in Inglourious Bastard or Django Unchained. But in reality, Pitt implied that the grown-ups in the Senate had failed, acted irresponsibly, and acted in a biased way to protect Trump. The word adults became a sharp attack, denouncing the immaturity and hypocrisy of Republican politicians.
They told me I only have 45 seconds up here, which is 45 seconds more than the Senate gave John Bolton this week.
With a running time of just 45 seconds, Pitt had no room for long-winded rhetoric. Instead, he opted for a concise, graphic, and satirical delivery. He didn't directly name Trump or the Republican Party, but anyone who followed the news knew exactly what he was getting at. The juxtaposition of politics with humorous and poignant filmmaking lightened the mood while still maintaining the weight of the message. This criticism was no accident. It reflected Pitt's liberal views, in line with the progressive spirit often found in Hollywood. He sided with those who believed the impeachment trial was opaque and rigged, a stance that was shared by many prominent figures at the time. In 2 short sentences, Pitt not only attacked the Senate but also expressed his frustration with the American political system, where he believed justice had not been served. Pitt's speech immediately caused a stir. In the Oscars auditorium, the audience laughed and applauded, showing that they understood the irony and supported his message. On social media, liberals praised him for speaking out, seeing it as a brave act in a tense political moment. But conservatives were not amused. Donald Trump's son, Eric Trump, quickly responded on Twitter, calling Pitt a second-rate actor and an elitist, arguing that he shouldn't bring politics into an art event. Love him or hate him, there's no denying that Pitt succeeded in stirring up discussion. He turned his 45 seconds on stage into a personal and socially impactful statement, proving that even in the glare of Hollywood, political voices can still resonate.
I was really disappointed with this week. And I think when gamemanship trumps doing the right thing, it's a sad day, and I don't think we should let it slide.
and I'm very serious about that.
Backstage at the Oscars on February 9th, 2020, when a naive reporter asked, "You mentioned politics tonight. What made you go in that direction?" Brad Pitt responded with a look as if he had just witnessed the world collapse in the face of human stupidity. "Oh, I was really disappointed with this week. Seriously, no kidding. When cheap political games and stupid party loyalty get in the way of doing the right thing. Congratulations. It's a sad day for America. So sad. I want to shout it's a sad day 3 times to let it sink in. I don't think we should let this go. And I'm dead serious about it, not in the half-serious way that politicians do." The background is well known. Just a few days ago, on February 5th, 2020, the U.S. Senate, a group controlled by the Republican Party like the people by the collar, acquitted Donald Trump in the first impeachment trial. Trump was accused of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress for daring to pressure Ukraine to dig up dirt on his opponent, Joe Biden. But, alas, don't expect justice to be served when the Republicans decided to slam the door on witnesses like John Bolton, who could have cleared up that mess. The result? A beautiful acquittal like a movie, making Pitt and the rest of the people with a bit of conscience shake their heads in dismay. When Pitt said, "I'm really disappointed," I don't think he was just sad for a moment, like when he runs out of morning coffee. No, it was the deep disappointment of someone who saw the U.S. political system turn into a fighting market, where the word really is not just an emphasis but a roar of indignation. Then comes the line game and ship Trump's doing the right thing. The recorder must have been shaking or something. But Pitt's point is clear as day. When power plays and blind party loyalty trump reason, Trump has won, literally and figuratively. A clever and bitter play on words, right? It's a sad day, he says it over and over again, as if to hammer home to everyone that this is no laughing matter. A day when justice is thrown into the trash, and the Senate claps its hands proudly for protecting the big boss. And finally, I don't think we should let this go. Pitt doesn't make a gentle appeal. He almost challenges the world not to turn a blind eye to this farce. I'm serious, it sounds like he's looking straight into everyone's eyes, telling them not to take this as the lament of a rich Hollywood guy, but as a warning from someone tired of the hypocrisy of politics.
By the way, how bad were the Academy Awards this year? Did you see it? And the winner is a movie from South Korea. What the hell was that all about? We got enough problems with South Korea with trade.
The conversation was typical Trump, impromptu, disjointed, and aggressive. He used sarcasm to downplay Parasite's triumph, nostalgia to celebrate America's past, and derogatory nicknames to get back at Pitt. Trump's goal was not just to oppose the Oscars or Pitt but also to reinforce his image as a defender of traditional American values against foreign invasion and liberal Hollywood. Instead of directly confronting Pitt's comments about the impeachment trial, he chose to deflect them, turning them into a personal argument to please his conservative audience.
And then you have Brad Pitt. I was never a big fan of his. He got up and said little wise guy statement. Little wise guy.
This was a direct response to Pitt's sarcasm on the Oscars stage when Pitt said the Senate gave him more speaking time than John Bolton during his impeachment trial. Trump began with "I was never a big fan of his" to dismiss Pitt's reputation, as if he had never paid any attention to the Hollywood star before. "He got upset" was Trump's way of mocking Pitt's reaction, turning a serious political criticism into a childish tantrum. In particular, the phrase "little wise guy," repeated twice, was a personal insult, reducing Pitt to a petty, egotistical guy who was not worth his attention.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Anthony Fauci. First, I'd like to thank all the older women in America who have sent me supportive, inspiring, and sometimes graphic emails. Now, there's been a lot of misinformation out there about the virus. And yes, the president has taken some liberties with our guidelines. So tonight, I would like to explain what the president was trying to say.
In his portrayal of Dr. Anthony Fauci on Saturday Night Live on April 25, 2020, Brad Pitt cleverly satirized Donald Trump's habit of exaggerating and being inconsistent. He quoted Trump's statement that "we've met with great companies, and they're going to have a vaccine, I think, relatively soon," then pretended to explain in a humorous tone, "Relatively soon is an interesting phrase. Compared to the entire history of the Earth, it's coming very quickly. But if you tell your friend, 'I'm coming relatively soon,' and then show up a year and a half later, your friend is probably going to be relatively mad." Through that, Pitt turned Trump's vague promise into a joke, emphasizing the meaninglessness of the phrase "relatively soon" when there is no specific timeline. He implicitly criticized Trump for making empty statements to reassure the public when in reality, the vaccine development process requires time and a clear plan, something Trump seems to have no interest in. The satire not only highlighted the unrealistic way Trump spoke, but also portrayed him as a leader who loves to brag but has no foundation, making the audience laugh at the contrast between expectations and reality.
A miracle would be great. Who doesn't love miracles? But miracles shouldn't be plan A. Even Sully tried to land at the airport first.
He quotes Trump boasting that we've done an incredible job and predicting that the virus will disappear one day, like a miracle, then feigns agreement in a naive tone. It will disappear. Miracles are great. Who doesn't like miracles? But then, Pitt turns the tables with a sharp punchline. But miracles shouldn't be the plan. Even Sully tried to land at the airport first. He alludes to the 2009 crash landing of pilot Chesley Sully Sullenberger on the Hudson River, emphasizing that even in desperate situations, people still prioritize practical solutions over miracles. In doing so, Pitt makes a mockery of Trump's empty promises, exposing his irresponsibility in placing his hopes on an unfounded outcome instead of relying on a specific scientific strategy. The satire not only highlights the absurdity of Trump's approach, but also portrays him as a delusional leader, leaving a humorous but poignant impression of the contrast between science and rhetoric.
Okay, couple of things. I don't know if I would describe the test as beautiful, unless your idea of beauty is having a cotton swab tickle your brain.
He quotes Trump confidently declaring that anyone who needs a test gets a test and describing the tests as beautiful, before immediately correcting them in a sarcastic tone. I'm not sure if you would call the tests beautiful, unless you think of the brain swab as a cosmetic thing. And when he says everyone gets a test, he means almost no one gets a test. Pitt didn't stop there, going on to mock Trump's crazy idea of injecting disinfectant or using intense light to treat the virus. Quoting verbatim, "Disinfectant knocks it out in a minute. Could you inject something like that?" Through his feigned naivete, Pitt makes fun of Trump's scientifically unfounded statements, emphasizing the danger and absurdity of a president making a suggestion that is immediately dismissed by the medical community. The satire exposed the absurdity of Trump's handling of the crisis, portraying him as not only ignorant but also irresponsible, making the audience laugh and shudder at the potential consequences of his statements.
So yeah, I'm getting fired. But until then, I'm gonna be there, putting out the facts for whoever's listening. And when I hear things like the virus can be cured if everyone takes the Tide Pod Challenge, I'll be there to say, please don't.
Pitt opens by referencing rumors that Trump fired Fauci, a hot topic at the time, with the offhand line, "There's a rumor that the president is going to fire me. Let's see what he says." Pitt then quotes Trump as saying, "I walked in today, and I heard I was going to fire him. I didn't fire him. I think he's a great guy," before immediately ending with a sarcastic note, "Well, I'm going to be fired." This quick reversal turns Trump's public praise into a joke, as if Pitt is saying, who would believe him? He's implying that Trump is a man who says one thing and does another when. The no firing claim is just a cover for the hidden pressure Fauci is under. This satire not only highlights Trump's duplicity but also paints him as an indecisive and untrustworthy leader, making the audience laugh at the subtle but cruel display of duplicity.
And to the real Dr. Fauci, thank you for your calm and your clarity in this unnerving time. And thank you to the medical workers, first responders, and their families for being on the front line.
Brad Pitt skillfully mixed satire with seriousness to send a powerful message. He began by mocking silly rumors with the line, "When I hear that the virus can be cured if people do the Tide Pod Challenge, I'm there to say, please don't do that," implicitly referring to Trump as the inspiration for crazy ideas like injecting disinfectant. But Pitt then switched to a more sincere tone, to the real Dr. Fauci, "Thank you for your calm and clarity during these uncertain times," and went on to thank the healthcare workers, first responders, and their families for being on the front lines. In doing so, Pitt created a clear contrast between his Trump-bashing joke and his tribute to the real workers. The performance not only mocked the chaos of Trump's rhetoric but also elevated Fauci and other unsung heroes, emphasizing that in times of crisis, science and dedication are what can be trusted, not empty promises or outlandish ideas from the White House. Brad Pitt is often known for his witty, sarcastic style of speaking, especially at major events like the Oscars. In his Oscar acceptance speech that year, he joked about the Senate's refusal to subpoena John Bolton, even comparing the situation to a Quentin Tarantino movie. However, in this interview, Pitt showed a much more serious attitude. This change in style reflects the importance of the issue. While on stage, he used humor to attack in a gentle but profound way. In the interview, he did not avoid or downplay the issue but expressed his dissatisfaction directly. This shows that Pitt not only wants to attract attention but also cares about what is happening in the American political system. Brad Pitt's statement quickly resonated in the media and social networks. Fans are divided into two camps. One side strongly supports his views, seeing him as a brave voice in an entertainment industry that often avoids political issues. The other side believes he is simply using his fame to intervene in an issue that belongs to politicians. However, this is not the first time a Hollywood star has spoken out about political issues. Many famous actors, singers, and directors, such as Meryl Streep, Robert De Niro, and George Clooney, have also publicly criticized Trump. This shows a change in Hollywood culture, where stars are increasingly using their platforms to speak out on important issues instead of just focusing on entertainment. With sharp and uncompromising words, Brad Pitt not only expressed his personal views but also showed his deep disappointment with the American political system. From subtle wordplay to clear calls to action, he turned an interview into a powerful statement about morality and justice. The 2020 impeachment of Donald Trump may have ended in an acquittal, but its aftershocks are still reverberating through American politics, and statements like Brad Pitt's are part of a larger conversation about fairness, accountability, and morality in politics. In an America divided by pandemic and politics, Pitt not only retaliated against Trump for his Oscars insult, but also turned him into a figure of helplessness, leaving behind a message that in dark times, laughter and sobriety are the best ways to resist those who don't deserve to be in power. Trump may be in the White House, but Pitt made him the reluctant clown on the public stage, and that's a victory no Oscar statuette can match.